The voice that never grew up. Have you ever felt like there's someone inside you, waiting to be seen? Not a stranger, but a version of you. Small, quiet, sometimes scared. Why do you freeze when someone compliments you? Why do you self-sabotage just as you're about to achieve something you want? Why does the fear of being happy feel bigger than the desire itself? The answer might not lie in the now, but in the unspoken yesterdays. In the child you once were, who still whispers through your decisions. Yes, they're still there. They didn't disappear. They just learned to hide in the shadows of your daily life. Today, in this video, we'll explore 7 silent chambers of the unconscious, places where that child still hides. We'll uncover the hidden signs that your inner child is wounded, and more importantly, how to begin healing them today. Not tomorrow, not when everything's perfect. Today, now. If this theme resonates with you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, leave a like, and comment. I'm ready to listen to my inner child. Let's do this together. Because the path to healing begins with one simple gesture. Listening to what was silenced, the echo still screaming, recognizing the invisible signs. Your inner child doesn't speak in words. It speaks in echoes, in patterns you've noticed but never understood. Chronic procrastination, fear of intimacy, sudden anger, emptiness after achievements, silent but persistent signs, like someone knocking at your chest day after day, hoping to be seen. The pain of the inner child doesn't show up in diagnoses, but in recurring emotional scars. Marta, for example, always felt a strange urge to shrink away when someone complimented her. On the surface, it looked like shyness, but deep down, it was an old memory. As a child, attention always came with punishment. Compliments became warnings. This isn't weakness. It's biology. Research on implicit memory and Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory show that childhood trauma embeds itself in the autonomic nervous system. It's not that you're thinking wrong. Your body learned that love, attention, or rest were dangerous, and it still tries to protect you, even when the threat is gone. That anger out of nowhere, it might be your first line of defense from a part of you that was never protected. The fear of starting something new. It could echo a childhood where mistakes weren't allowed. There's an echo inside you still screaming, and you need to learn to listen without judgment. Try this. Grab a pen and paper, take a deep breath, and write for 7 minutes, as if your inner child were speaking to you. Don't edit, don't analyze, just listen. As if they were saying, please just hear me. And many spend a lifetime trying to fix behaviors without realizing the behavior is just the messenger. The wound lies deeper. It lives in the forgotten child within the adult you've become. Broken toys. When love turns to fear. Have you ever felt like you constantly have to earn love? Like if you stop trying so hard, you'll be forgotten, replaced, or left behind. That's not love. That's survival. And for many, it started early, in a childhood where affection came with control, and love was conditional on performance. A child raised with fragile love learns to negotiate their existence, learns that to be loved means to sacrifice, that to be seen, they must be perfect, that saying no is dangerous, and slowly they stop being children and become little guardians of fear. John, for instance, always fell for people he needed to save. He called it empathy, but deep down, it was the only way he knew how to love, by being needed. As a child, he learned that he only got attention when he helped, pleased, or fixed something. So for him, love meant self-erasure. This is where attachment psychology comes in. John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth revealed that children with insecure bonds, where love was unpredictable, grow into adults with anxious or avoidant patterns. They chase or run from love because love both activates them and terrifies them. Sometimes the fear of rejection hides something deeper, the fear of being fully seen. Because if you were rejected by the very people who were supposed to love you unconditionally, revealing your true self starts to feel like a threat. But there's a symbolic path to reconnection. Take a box. Fill it with objects from your childhood. Photos, toys, drawings, old letters. Sit with it and speak. Not as an adult, but as someone reuniting with what was left behind. Because inside each of us, there are broken toys, but there are also hands still capable of mending, not with glue, but with presence. Say, I see you, I believe in you. You don't have to keep trying to earn love. Silence on the playground, the trauma of what wasn't said. Not all trauma comes from what was done. Some is born from what was never said, what was never allowed to be felt, what was silently buried inside. Did you grow up in a home where no one shouted, but no one really listened either, where everything seemed calm, yet your soul was crying for space? Then you know the trauma of silence. Children who weren't allowed to express pain, anger, or confusion grow into adults who apologize for existing. People who say sorry before they even speak, who hesitate to say no, who confuse the absence of conflict with peace, but are quietly at war with their own voice. That's because the brain is still developing in childhood. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for naming emotions and regulating responses, is shaped by emotional experiences. Daniel Siegel explains, when a child isn't helped to name what they feel, they learn to silence themselves just to survive. And what's silenced doesn't disappear. It becomes symptoms, anxiety, unexplained exhaustion, a sadness no one notices, and worse, internal invalidation. Have you ever heard or told yourself the phrase, "It's not that bad"? It sounds comforting, but it's a sweet poison because it tells your pain, you don't matter. Today, let's flip that narrative. Grab a pen and paper. Write down the phrases you never heard but desperately needed. Words like, I believe you. Your pain makes sense. You have the right to feel this. For the next 21 days, read these sentences out loud, not just as a practice, but as a reunion with your own humanity. Because healing the inner child isn't just remembering what happened, it's giving voice to what was silenced. Cracked mirrors, a fragmented self-image. What do you see when you look in the mirror? A face, a body, or judgments disguised as observations? Many people don't really see themselves. They analyze, they criticize, they reject, as if every glance is a courtroom, as if there's always something that needs fixing. That critical voice wasn't born with you. It was learned, internalized, shaped by how you were seen or overlooked back when you didn't yet know how to defend yourself. Anna, for example, can't look at herself in the mirror without finding a flaw. She grew up in a home where she was never called beautiful, where beauty was seen as risky and self-worth as a luxury. The image she formed of herself didn't come from within, but from the eyes that never saw her with love. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the part of us we reject because someone else once rejected it. And when the child in that shadow grows up without validation, it forms a distorted self, torn between who they truly are and who they had to be in order to survive. Living with wounded self-esteem is like wearing clothes that are too tight. You get used to the discomfort, but the pain never fully goes away. Worse yet, you may not even realize how much you're repressing, because being hard on yourself became your way of staying safe. But there's a way to rebuild. Take a childhood photo of yourself, put it somewhere visible, hang it up, and for the next few days, speak to that child. Say the words they never heard. You are enough. You are beautiful. You have worth, even when you do nothing. This small act might seem insignificant, but it represents a break from the past, a symbolic gesture to restore what was stolen from your self-image, compassion. Guardian of ruins, loyalty to suffering. Have you ever noticed how, just when life starts to get better, something inside you ruins it? As if there were a secret pact with pain, as if being happy meant betraying someone you love. This is unconscious loyalty to suffering, a silent allegiance to your parents' pain. A wordless vow made in childhood: if I get too happy, they'll feel worse. So to belong to them, I need to suffer a little too. Carla only seemed to make progress when her family was in crisis. When everything was going well, she'd get sick. It was as if some part of her had to keep the pain alive to remain connected. Love for her had always been tied to worry, never to freedom. These patterns aren't fantasies. They're deep imprints passed down through generations, as shown in Rachel Yehuda's research on intergenerational trauma. Unresolved emotions, guilt, fear, pain can be inherited, and who you are today might be the reflection of a family system that was never healed. Loyalty to pain might look noble, but it's a prison because it's not yours. It's a burden you carry out of love, but one you no longer have to hold. There's a symbolic ritual for this moment. Write a letter to your parents, whether they're alive or not. Say, I see your pain, I honor your story, but today I ask for permission to be free, to be happy, and still belong. Place the letter in an envelope, keep it somewhere special, or burn it as a gesture of release. Because you don't have to hold on to ruins to be accepted. You can finally build your own emotional home. And yes, it can have open windows and bright walls. When the light feels dangerous, the fear of being powerful. Some people aren't afraid of failure, they're afraid of success. Yes, success, light, power, freedom. What should be a reason to celebrate becomes a threat. This happens when, as a child, you learned that being too much, too happy, too creative, too spontaneous, made adults uncomfortable. Your light, instead of being embraced, was mistaken for rebellion. And instead of applause came criticism. Instead of encouragement came reprimand. And that's how the fear of shining is born. A fear so subtle you hardly notice it, but it's there. Every time you postpone a promising project, every time you sabotage yourself when things are going too well, every time you feel guilty for being happy while others suffer, your brain, shaped by those childhood moments, begins to associate success with punishment. Neuroscience explains this. The reward system, fueled by dopamine, clashes with the anticipation of punishment. In other words, your body braces for consequences, even when none are coming. That's why so many people shrink away from their own growth. As if an inner child were whispering, don't stand out too much, it's dangerous. But there's a symbolic gesture that can begin to heal this. Create an altar of forgotten victories. A space filled with reminders of moments when you were brilliant, brave, creative. Maybe it's an old trophy, a photo, a letter, a project. Reactivate the memory of your own power and look at it with fresh eyes, not as something lost in the past, but as a seed still alive. Because your light no longer has to apologize for existing. It only needs to be recognized, first by you, then by the world. Holding without turning back. Healing isn't a return, it's an integration. You don't have to go back in time to heal your inner child, because they never left you. They're here, in your reactions, in your fears, in your held-back tears, but most of all in the silent wish to be embraced by who you are today. Many seek healing as a return, a way to go back to who they were before it all happened, but that's impossible. What's done is done. The pain can't be erased. But it can and must be integrated. Carl Jung said, what you resist persists. What you accept transforms. Healing the inner child isn't about putting them in a protective bubble. It's about letting them live within you, safely. Giving them space to play, to dream, to cry, and to be protected. Now, imagine this. You, the adult, walking through a place that represents your childhood. There you see a small version of yourself, sitting alone. They don't run to you. They wait, maybe afraid, maybe unsure. You walk closer, you kneel, you reach out your hand, and you say, "Today I am who you needed, and I'm here. No rush, just for you." That's the heart of healing. Integration, the fusion between the conscious adult and the wounded child. A new pact, not rooted in fear but in presence. To strengthen this bond, try a guided visualization. Close your eyes, breathe. Picture yourself holding your inner child with love and protection. Don't tell them what to feel. Just say, "I'm here." And you are safe. Because when your inner child is no longer a burden, but a fully integrated part of you, you stop living in reaction to the past and begin living by consciously choosing the present. Flowers through concrete, the life that grows from understood pain. Pain that isn't understood is repeats. Pain that is heard transforms. It doesn't disappear, it blooms. Like a flower breaking through concrete, not because it's fragile, but because it's persistent. You've seen it happen. People who've lived through the harshest experiences and still overflow with sensitivity. People who didn't use pain to build walls, but bridges. Like Lucas, who turned the abuse he suffered into a social project to protect vulnerable children. He didn't erase the pain, he gave it meaning. That's the alchemy of the soul. The transformation of suffering into compassion, of trauma into wisdom, of the past into purpose. The Japanese tradition of kintsugi speaks of this with beauty. In this art, broken pottery is repaired with gold. The cracks aren't hidden, they're highlighted. Because where there is healed pain, there is beauty. You can do the same. You don't have to save the world. Start by saving your inner child. With a simple daily gesture dedicated to them, choose one habit and do it for 33 days. It could be writing a note to yourself, taking a mindful bath, listening to childhood music, playing, laughing. Do it as if you're saying, "You matter, I see you." Because your wounded childhood doesn't need to drive your life anymore, but it can and should help you navigate it. And at the end of this journey, maybe you'll realize your child self wasn't lost. They were just waiting to be found by someone unafraid to listen, and that someone is you. The adult your child has always waited for, you made it here, and that in itself is a sign of courage, because looking inward takes more bravery than facing the outside world. And you looked. You faced old wounds, recognized patterns, listened to silences, felt the presence of a child who might have been quiet for decades, and even in fear, you chose to stay. Today, you understand that healing your inner child isn't about returning to the past or getting over the pain. It's something nobler, quieter, more revolutionary, giving your child the adult they always needed, not the perfect adult, but the present one, the one who listens without judging, who comforts without rushing, who protects without controlling. So now let me give you 3 simple, powerful directions, symbolic steps for this path. Daily dialogue with your inner child. Ask, "What do you need today?" And listen, not with your mind, with your heart. Choose a daily act of love, something small and tangible that says to that part of you, "I'm taking care of us." It could be a walk, a warm bath, a note on the mirror. Create your sacred space. A little corner with a photo of your child self, a candle, a symbolic item. Go there whenever you forget who you are. And remember, you are not broken, you are under construction. Your story doesn't end in your wounds. It begins again through them. If this video spoke to your soul, share it. Someone close to you might still be living in the silence of their childhood without realizing it. Like, comment below, "Today, I embrace my inner child." Mine. And if you want to continue this journey, subscribe to the channel. Every video here is a step closer to yourself. Because in the end, true maturity isn't about leaving the child behind. It's about taking them by the hand and moving forward together.